you miss me? Are you ready for a terrifying trip? Then lock your doors, pull the windows shut, and hold on. And don't worry, that thing in the corner, maybe it won't bite. How's it going, family? Well, this is a show I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I've talked to this gentleman now a couple of times. He's been on our live stream. For those who haven't heard him, I'm going to have him do the very first story he ever told that got me interested in him. He's got a few more interesting occurrences and a lot of knowledge that's went on in the great state of Mississippi. And this is one of the things I'm going to start trying to do. I'm going to try to gather a Bigfoot encounter from all, I'm going to say 50 states, but I've never ever heard of any Bigfoot activity in Hawaii and in a couple other states. Not saying that can't be, because no expert, I keep telling y'all that, and you find weird things every day. But we're going to try to collect a Bigfoot story to have on our show from every state. If you have one, please send me an email. I do check them when I have time, and I will get back with you. Don't forget to leave me your number so I can call you. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy tonight's show. Here it is. This is your vault keeper. I'm with Chef 1980. We had him on the show back when we first got started with our live streams, and he told a pretty nice Bigfoot encounter. I'm going to let him tell that one and see what else he has to offer us today. How you doing, Chef?
I'm doing all right. How you doing today, Vault?
I'm getting over a little bit of another bout of the flu. I know you've been a loyal listener and family member since we first got started with the live streams, me and DW, and like I said, I told you were going to be one of the first ones that I ever got to do the live phone call with. Like I said, we're pre-recording this one right now because, like I said, I've got the flu and I don't really want to do any live stuff in case I get a coughing fit or something.
I understand that.
So if you don't mind, that first story, if you mind telling it again?
No, that's fine. This encounter happens down in southwest Mississippi. I want to say around maybe 2004, 2003, 2004, and it was in I'd say late summer, early fall. I got invited out to a friend of mine's house that lives out in the country, and we had a barbecue, cookout. Everybody sitting around, having a good time out in the backyard. And he lives on an area that has about 140 acres. So his house and such it's surrounded by woods, and they have a back pasture that they kept some horses in, and they had a chicken pen out there behind the house that I helped him build, and they had some dogs that they were raising to start hunting with. So he had some beagles, and it done gotten later in the evening, and most everybody went into the house, and we're all sitting around, BS and shooting the breeze and whatnot. And, all of a sudden, those dogs start going nuts outside. They're screaming and crying and barking, and and whatnot. So my buddy, he says, Chef, why don't you go check and see what's going on with them dogs outside? So I grabbed a flashlight. Turns out it wasn't very bright. It just happened to be a flashlight there in the front door of the kitchen. So I walked outside, and my girlfriend was with me, and she walked out, and we walked over to them dogs and started to try to quiet them down. And it was eerily quiet out there beside them dogs, because normally you hear the sounds of the woods outside, bugs and crickets and frogs, and general woods noise during the early fall. But it was quiet except for them dogs. Them dogs were scared. I mean, they were running around in circles, pitching themselves and shit. It was just kind of eerie. So my girlfriend's over there trying to calm these dogs down, and I'm looking around with this flashlight, but kind of see what's going on. And the chicken house that I helped him build was maybe, I don't know, 30 to 45 feet away from the dog pen, cut down the hill a little ways to my right. So I'm kind of shining the flashlight around there. And I remember helping him build this chicken house. And we built it about 7.5 feet tall. I remember measuring it out, and to the roof line was 7.5 feet. And I'm shining my lights around, and there above that roof line of that chicken house, I see a set of eyes. And, well, normally anything that's that tall, you don't want to mess with. It was easily 1.5 feet above the roof line, standing behind the chicken house. And that flashlight, well, it come on a face that it was out of nightmares. I mean, this was one ugly son of a gun.
That'd be a hellacious sight to see, especially if you're not expecting it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it whatsoever. And this big guy, that face was about 1.5 feet taller than the chicken house, so that would put it in the 9 to 10 foot range, I guess. And I kept the flashlight on it, and my girlfriend came up behind me, and my buddy's little sister had walked out there, and I didn't know, and I kind of cut my eyes a little bit, and I saw her, and I saw my girlfriend. They were both behind me. And I'm the male, and my protective instinct kind of kicks in. I've got to make sure I got to get these women back in this house. So I saw both their names, and I say, okay, we need to head back to the house. Oh, what is it, Chef? I said, no, we need to go back to the house. So I put my hands out, and I backed up, and I'm holding them behind me, and we're backing up to the house. They turn around and they start walking back toward the house, but I'm backing up. I keep that flashlight on there, and I kind of give a yell, you know, like when you got a dog in your yard and you want it to go, get out of here, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And it returns with a, you know, real deep bass, shaky at chest kind of grunt. And
yeah, that's usually not a good sign, because it sounds like instead of you scaring it off, you annoyed it.
yeah, I might have, but it never came from around the chicken house. It was standing there looking at me. I was looking at it, and I backed all the way up to the house. And my buddy's mother, she'd come out on the back porch to see why we were still outside. I told her, I said, hey, you remember that thing that we had prowling around the house when we used to live out here next to y'all? And she said, yeah. Don't you dare tell me we got something like that here. I said, go back in the house. Everybody's staying in the house tonight. And she called both the girls by name. She said, y'all get back in here. So, we came back inside, and before I went inside, seemed like maybe the air had shifted or whatever, and I caught a smell. Good God. Ooh, man, I don't know if it was that thing, but there was an awful smell. Like a, cross between wet dog and skunk and trash all rolled up into one. So we got back into the house, and that was pretty much it for that encounter. Everybody stayed in the house that night. We weren't planning on sleeping out there that night. We were planning on going home for the night, and she said, nope, nobody's leaving until the sun comes back up.
Now that happened.
So we both.
Now that happened in 2004. 2004, right?
Yeah, I'd say probably around 2004, 2005, something like that.
Can you give me the county that happened in? I don't want just the county, if you don't mind.
Well, that would be right outside of Adams County.
Okay. If people want to look at a map of Mississippi, they can look up Adams County. Adams County is, I believe, is pretty big.
Yes, it's a fairly large county.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to put a picture of the different, of the state of Mississippi and with its different counties on it. That way they can get a general idea of, central, northern, southern, eastern, western. Because, unless people do heavy research, and I tell people, because everybody doesn't use the name Bigfoot to associate these creatures with. They may be called boogers. They may be called cattywampus. The hairy man, the booger, whatever. Especially in the south.
Yeah. There's many names that I've heard them called growing up. I've heard catamount. I've heard booger. I've heard the boogeyman. And if you go to the description of what this thing is, it's all the same thing, it's just a different name.
Exactly. That's what makes it hard for people to research. Because, like I said, I've come across probably 300, I'm just going to say 300 plus encounters just in the state of Mississippi, not counting the ones that are next to the lines of, like, say, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, New Orleans, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that was my most recent encounter, but I had a couple encounters whenever I was younger.
Well, if you don't
in that same county.
If you don't mind, tell us about those.
Well, there's times that I was out hunting and I saw tracks and I called a bad smell, but I didn't see a creature, but I saw where something traveled through that area. So I just traveled the other way. You know,
when you were younger, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when you were younger, I meant to ask this. Did any of your family members ever tell you stories about, these creatures, so you already knew about them, and when you smelt that, you knew to go the other way, or?
Well, my first family's encounter was whenever I was a very young child. I was in a crib, and we lived on the outskirts of Adams County, in a small community out in the country. And we had one of these things come around our house. And my father told me, I jumped up and I was pointing at the window screaming, "Monster, monster, monster." And my mother came in and grabbed me and picked me up. And the next day, my dad went outside and found tracks right next to that window that I was pointing at. And muddy handprints on the side of our house.
I hear that a lot about the muddy handprints. And I've always been curious if they're doing that intentionally or they're just doing it because they're leaning up against a house and they don't realize it. But usually I'm talking about they just leave handprints everywhere on the outside of a house, and they keep coming back.
Well, what he had said, the way the footprints looked like, it was like it was leaning down looking in the window, because the handprints looks like somebody would put their hands on the wall to look in a window. So the prints were facing the house and like it was looking in at me in my crib, and I was yelling, "Monster." Well, the next couple of days, my father and a few of his friends who were ex-military, they kind of staked out outside. And it never did come back.
Now, for the people that don't know, I said I'm going to put up a map, but Adams County, Adams County, most of it runs right up beside the Mississippi River.
Yes, sir, it does.
How far are y'all from the Mississippi River?
No, we're on the Mississippi River.
You're just off of it? Say how far is the Mississippi River? How far was the river from where you grew up at, where you had your encounter?
It was the same town, pretty much.
Okay.
If you know the town, the main town in Adams County.
Well, I don't want nobody to be able to track it down, but you say within a mile you're from the Mississippi River?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. Because that actually right across the Mississippi River is New Orleans. Well, it's Louisiana, not New Orleans. Remember to phrase that. It's the state of Louisiana.
It's the state of Louisiana. And New Orleans, from where I grew up, is about 3 hours south.
Yeah. Because I've gotten probably 25 accounts out of Jefferson, which is right above Adams. I've got some out of was it Franklin, that's right next door to it.
Yeah, Franklin County's right next door to us.
And the weirdest one I've gotten so far was from, I don't have it, I found it was from Rankin County, where a little girl was supposedly abducted by a hairy man from the woods back in the 30s.
Well, that story's, that's not too far-fetched from the story that my grandfather's father used to tell him.
Okay.
That was, it was, another name for this big son of a gun. My grandpa used to tell me, don't go playing in the woods, close to sundown, because old Sack Bill will get you.
Yep. That's one of the names that it was given from Rankin, Madison, Hines. There's another county right in there. I cannot remember what it is. I think it's Smith County. That name came up a lot.
Yeah. And my grandfather didn't grow up in Adams County. He grew up in one of those counties you just talked about.
Okay.
And that's what his father and mother told him. Don't go playing outside close to dark because old Sack Bill will get you.
See, when I first come across that, I thought it was some kind of serial killer back then, or whatever, something in that nature. And then the more I got to researching it, no, they were describing a Bigfoot. This thing when it was seen, it didn't have clothes. It had hair from head to toe. It was anywhere from 7 to 11 feet tall. That's the thing. These things, from what the accounts I've gotten from the state of Mississippi, y'all got some big boys in y'all's area.
Oh, yeah, we do. I've heard accounts in Adams County of on, out in the country, someone seeing one walk behind a barn, and the head almost touching the eaves of the barn, and this was a big barn, and the eaves measured up to around 11 foot. So yeah, we got some big old boys down in Mississippi.
Yeah,
it's not just up in Colorado where we keep the big ones. We got some pretty big ones down in the South too.
Well, I'm working with a police officer out of Carroll County, Mississippi, and they are having occurrences right now where it's actually made the local paper.
Well, it's been a long time since, like things that have really made the paper. There's accounts all the time, and police don't want to really write that down, and they don't want to kind of let out that information to the public because it would cause hysteria,
Well, this is on a border of two counties, Carroll County and Montgomery County. And like I said, it's made the local papers there for the last, I think it's 2 weeks is what the officer told me. Like I said, he doesn't want to go on record because of it would jeopardize his job, and I understand that. But like I said, it's actually tearing into people's chicken coops. It's several hunting dogs have went missing during the deer season from hunting camps because people don't realize in Mississippi using dogs for hunting deer is still pretty. It goes on a pretty good bit, and like I said, they treasure those deer dogs like gold. I'm talking about they trade them. You're talking about several $100s they got in one dog.
Yeah, that's expensive to raise beagles that hunt deer.
Well, I've got an account where one camp lost 27 dogs in less than a week.
Oh, goodness.
And one of them even had his dogs in the back of a truck in a dog box, and it was bolted to the back of the truck, and it ripped the dog box off the truck to get to the dogs.
Well, that's I've heard encounters of these things from a buddy of mine being out hunting, and he dropped a deer, and one of these things walked over there. He had to track the deer, and by the time he had kind of found the trail, the deer had fallen into a field, and he saw that thing pick it up, a full-size pinpoint white-tailed deer, big old sucker, picked it up right underneath his arm and walked right off with it.
I've gotten several accounts of that happening. Not only in the state of Mississippi, but I took over some hunting land I call Property X, and that was one of the problems that this hunter had that I took over the land from, is he would kill deer, and if it went into this certain area, you could track to where the deer laid down, died, and there would be a blood pool there, but there wouldn't be a deer, and it wouldn't be no sign of the deer got up and walked away. Something come and took the deer.
Something just picked it up and walked off with it.
Yes, sir. And he lost several dogs in there. He even brought a guy out of up north. I cannot remember. I cannot remember the name of the area, but he brought in some wolfhounds that were he kept being told that they were coyotes and everything else that was doing it. So he got this guy to come down with his 4 dogs that were supposedly coyote hunters. They'd go find a den and kill all the coyotes in the den. Well, they released them, and they heard the dogs strike out and heard the dogs bay up, and then all of a sudden he sounded like one hell of a damn dog fight. And they called and called and called, couldn't get the dogs to come back. Well, they went about 25 miles north of there to stay in the closest motel, and they were going to come back the next morning. He said that, they'd probably waiting on them. Well, they were waiting on them all right. Something had killed them, broke their necks, tore a couple of them apart, and piled them all, what was left of them, all up in the one road that goes into the area.
Yeah. I've heard accounts. See, it used to be whenever I was growing up down there, not that many people talked about this. You got to be from there, and people talk. They don't talk outside about it.
No, Mississippi is a weird state. I'm talking about. They still believe in in keeping private things private. And the matter of fact, I was down there back last year, and I was in actually Jasper County. And that's the first time I'd had an old lady in probably 10 years pull. And when she opened the door, she greeted me with a double-barrel 410 shotgun.
Yeah.
And first thing she told me was, I don't want none, I didn't order none, and you need to leave, sonny. And she cocked one of them barrels.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're not from there and you don't know how to talk to people, you're not going to get nobody to talk to you if you don't get your butt full of lead.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is still down there. But, so we would hear different accounts from friends or family members from, oh, this happened, way back in the 50s, or this happened this time, or whatever. But, and then growing up, I look up on BFRO or whatever, and there's no account of that. But I know the person who told the story, and I know them to be telling the truth, but it never made, a big time account or whatever. It never made it to the big database or whatever.
Well, I thank you for your time and everything, and like I said, and I'd love to get you on a live stream one night. But I am actually coming down to Mississippi because, like I said, I'm going to do some investigating through Carroll and Montgomery County, and it's not that far of a drive to Adams County, I don't think. I think it's about an hour, 2 hours.
Well, right now, I'm not living in Mississippi.
Okay.
So I would have to make a trip down there to meet you to kind of take you around. But I'm not currently living in Mississippi.
Okay. Well,
but I've still got plenty of friends and whatnot down there.
We'll have to. We'll definitely have to get up with that because, like I said, I'm definitely curious about getting around to some of these places that this is happening, doing a little investigation. Because if they were there then, I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar that they're still around now.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I remember my dad told me a story of my uncle. He had a motorcycle back in the 70s, and he was riding down road going to his girl's house down there in Adams County, and he had swerved and missed one. It was crossing the street, or it was crossing the road from one set of woods into another set of woods, and he's on a motorcycle.
So I've had a bunch of that come out. People sending me emails and stuff all up and down the Natchez Trace area. That place, that road right there, supposedly is full of them.
I've seen 3 of them on the trace.
Well, I've gotten accounts from one lady used to be a dispatcher for the Trace Rangers, and for the people that don't understand this, the Natchez Trace is a federal parkway that is actually a bicycle path only, and they allow motor vehicles to use it. Now you can't go above 50 miles an hour on this road. You can't have any kind of commercial markings or nothing like that. It's made for recreational use basically only. And like I said, it goes. Yeah,
it's a 2-lane road that runs from Natchez, Mississippi, all the way up into Tennessee.
Yes, sir. And several accounts have come off there. Well, this lady right here told me that several of the rangers would call in and report that they had another encounter with one of these creatures. Now they gave it a special code name that I'm not going to give out so I don't get no one in trouble. But you know, they keep records of it.
Well, it's a federal park, just like Yellowstone or whatever, and it's a touristy type thing. So they would give a code, and they wouldn't start announcing that they've got Sasquatch or Bigfoot or whatever in this set of woods. But it is a large swath of federally protected forest.
Yeah, it's several hundred miles long.
And so you've got all kinds of animals up through there that these things could feed on. You've got huge herds of deer that are on.
From what I understand, you're not allowed to hunt, fish, or nothing like that off of this.
No, you're not allowed to hunt or fish on the trace. So you've got huge herds of protected white-tailed deer that travel through that area.
So that's
you've got turkeys and
I don't
all
understand.
kinds of.
Well, this is something I don't understand. When you start doing research on Sasquatch, Bigfoot, boogers, whatever you want to call them, every once in a while you'll come across stuff from I'm not going to name them because I don't get along with several of these Bigfoot organizations, but you hardly ever see or hear anything out of Mississippi. But if you do enough research on your own and digging, Mississippi, like I said, I've got over 300 sightings, and some of them are just people passing by seeing them. Some of them are them coming up, taking their livestock. Some of them are them trying to get into people's houses, barns, their cellars.
Yeah.
Like I said, deer camps having deer. They had one of these deer camps in Carroll County. They have what they call the meat locker, which is a big building that they've insulated, and they keep it cool. That way they hang their deer in there, and they have one guy that goes in there that, dresses everything out. This been broke into 4 different times where they had 4x4 posts and everything that they use to try to keep other animals out, and they'll just be snapped like twigs. Now, several people, oh, that's bear. The funny thing is, if you do your research, there are no bears in Mississippi.
No, there's no bear in Mississippi.
So it ain't a bear. The biggest thing supposedly in Mississippi is every once in a while there's a sight of a timber wolf.
Occasionally.
A mountain cat or, cougar or something like that, but nothing to this nature.
No, there's not supposed to be any large predators in the state of Mississippi, like bear or whatever. But, we do have these things. And, there's large cats in Mississippi, but they're not huge. There's lynx and there's cougar and whatnot, but they don't get that big.
No, you're talking about the size of a golden retriever, or I'm talking about. Think of a large-sized dog. That's the biggest predator supposed to be in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, pretty much.
According to Wildlife Fish and Game, that's if you pull up their site for the state of Mississippi. Now there are some accounts of a couple of black bears swimming across from the Big Black River. The Mississippi River coming into certain areas, and
but that's few and far between.
That's what I think. Say they don't go from, for several hundred miles inland. They come over, do what they're going to do. Usually they get chased back across the river.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're talking about the Carroll County is probably 100 miles plus from the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
And that's a long way for a black bear just to be roaming across out of its natural habitat.
Yeah, I'd probably say that's past their normal roaming. They may roam 25 to 40 miles in a big circle.
Like I said, I'm going by what the government, the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fish and Games for the state of Mississippi, says the largest predator in Mississippi is supposedly, besides humans, is supposedly the size of a golden retriever, a lab, a canine-like animal. But,
coyote, or maybe a small breed of wolf or something.
Yeah.
But it's not big enough to go tearing down chicken houses and taking livestock and picking up deer and walking off with.
Yes, sir. That's totally different. Even bears, when they pick up, I've hunted in Colorado a bunch, and I've seen a bear take down a black-tailed deer, and it would still leave drag marks because it can't pick it completely up off the ground. We're talking about something that picks this deer carcass up, and you're talking about an average deer carcass of something that somebody wants to shoot is 100+ pounds.
Yeah.
That's a small doe, and I'm talking about you get into a larger animal, you're talking about a nice size buck deer in the state of Mississippi is going to weigh close to 200 pounds.
Yeah. And most of your hunters out there aren't going to take anything less than an 8-point.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about at least 150 to 200 pounds. Now, I just don't see a wolf picking that thing up, and it's not going to leave any drag marks.
No.
You're talking about something being able to pick up deer and walk off with them and not leave any trace.
No.
It's boggling. And then people say, well, this thing doesn't exist. Well, okay. I'm not here to try to convince you. I'm just here reporting what I found and what I see.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. If you don't want to believe it, you don't have to believe it. I know I believe it because I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm not a person that thinks. I'm a knower. I know what I've been seen them too many times, been too damn close to them. And they don't like it when you get close to them.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Well, Chef, we're going to cut this one off right here.